The massive space station turned slowly in the darkness above the galactic core. It was bigger than most moons, and sparkled with millions of lights. Inside its grand meeting hall, beings from across the galaxy sat in their special chairs, each one made for their different body types. Admiral HFY looked around the room with satisfaction. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights as he called the monthly meeting to order. The hegemony had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years, and these meetings always reminded him why they stayed in power. "Bring up the next file," he said, his voice carrying easily through the huge chamber. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small yellow star with several planets spinning around it. The third planet was covered in blue oceans and green land masses. "System designation Sol," announced the computer in its flat voice. "Third planet shows signs of primitive life. Species calls themselves humans." Laughter filled the chamber immediately. The sound came from dozens of different alien throats, creating a strange mixture of clicks, hisses, and musical notes. Zexhari, the representative from the crystalline Vorthon Empire, stood up. Her body was made of what looked like living glass, and light danced through her as she moved. "Humans?" she said, her voice tinkling like wind chimes. "What do these little creatures think they can do?" The hologram changed to show images from Earth. There were pictures of human cities, their primitive flying machines, and their basic space rockets. More laughter echoed through the hall. "Look at their transportation," said Ambassador Clith of the Gas Cloud Nebular Collective. His form shifted and swirled as he spoke. "They still burn chemicals to push themselves through space. My youngest offspring could travel faster by flapping their energy tendrils." The images shifted again. This time they showed human weapons, tanks rolling across battlefields, fighter jets in the sky, and then nuclear explosions lighting up the darkness. The laughter grew even louder. "Oh, this is rich," wheezed Coordinator Voss, whose multiple spider-like legs clicked against his platform. "They split atoms and think they have mastered energy. We were doing that before their star was even born." Admiral HFY smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "What does our latest report say about their development level?" A younger hegemony officer stepped forward. His skin was the same blue as the Admiral's, but lighter, showing his lower rank. "Sir, our monitoring stations have been watching them for 50 of their years. They have achieved basic nuclear technology and primitive spaceflight. They have sent small vehicles to their nearest planetary neighbor and established a tiny orbital station." "How tiny?" asked someone from the back of the chamber. "It houses perhaps 6 individuals at most, sir." The laughter started up again, but this time it was mixed with sounds of disbelief. Duchess Iroltha of the Elegant Federation stretched her long neck. Her people looked like graceful swans crossed with intelligent snakes. "6 beings in space?" she said. "We have cargo ships that carry more than that. Their largest flying machines carry only a few hundred passengers," added the officer, reading from his data pad. "And these take many hours to travel between distant points on their own world." Ambassador Shentok from the biomechanical Nixari leaned forward. Half of his body was living flesh, the other half was gleaming metal and wires. "What about their wars? Surely a species this primitive must fight constantly." The hologram showed more images. Battlefields covered with smoke, soldiers carrying simple guns, cities damaged by basic explosives. "They do fight, sir," said the officer. "But their conflicts are limited to their homeworld. Their weapons are crude chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They have not yet learned to weaponize gravity, time, or dimensional energy." This brought the biggest laugh yet. Several delegates had to wipe tears from their eyes or whatever they used for eyes. "Dimensional energy," gasped Zexhari. "They probably don't even know other dimensions exist." "Metal projectiles," wheezed Coordinator Voss. "What's next? Are they going to throw rocks at us?" Admiral HFY raised one hand and the room slowly grew quiet. "This is all very amusing," he said, "but we must make an official decision about this system. What is our recommendation?" The young officer cleared his throat. "Based on their current rate of development, the analysis team suggests classification level 2, complete non-interference protocol. Estimated time to achieve basic fusion power, 8,000 standard years. Estimated time to develop faster than light travel, 15,000 years if they survive that long. If they survive? Asked Duchess Iriltha. Yes, ma'am. Current projections show a 73% chance they will destroy themselves within the next 500 years. Their nuclear weapons, environmental damage, and tendency toward global conflict make long-term survival unlikely. The room, filled with knowing nods and murmurs of agreement. Most species went through this phase. The smart ones learned to work together and moved beyond it. The rest became just another dead world with some interesting ruins. Very well, said Admiral Kethvar. All in favor of classification level 2 for the Sol system? Every delegate raised their voting appendage. Hands, tentacles, energy fields, and crystalline formations all showed agreement. Motion passed unanimously, announced the Admiral. The Sol system is now under complete quarantine. No contact, no interference, no resource extraction. Let them develop naturally or let them destroy themselves. Either way, it's no concern of ours. The hologram disappeared and the next file appeared in its place. The delegates had already forgotten about the little blue planet and its primitive inhabitants. After all, there were hundreds of other worlds to discuss, and some of them were actually interesting. Admiral Kethvar made a note in his personal files. Humans, another failed species in waiting. Review status in 1,000 years. Then he moved on to more important matters. None of them noticed the small sensor reading that had been filed away in the automated systems. Deep in Earth's oceans, something had briefly appeared on their scanners, something that their computers couldn't identify or classify. But the reading was so brief and so unusual that the monitoring AI had marked it as a sensor error and deleted it. If they had seen that reading, they might have been less confident about humanity's primitive status. But they didn't see it. And so they continued their meeting, completely unaware that everything they thought they knew about Earth was wrong. 7 miles below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in front of a wall of monitors that glowed in the darkness. The secret facility was buried so deep that no satellite could detect it, and no alien scanner had ever found it. Water pressure that could crush a submarine in seconds was held back by walls made from materials that did not officially exist. Sarah pushed her black hair away from her tired eyes and looked at the readings again. After 15 years of work, they were finally close to something impossible. Run the test again, she said to her team. Dr. James Park, her second-in-command, looked worried. Sarah, we've run it 12 times today. The energy readings are off the charts. If we're wrong about this, we're not wrong, Sarah said firmly. Show me the quantum field data. The main screen changed to show waves of energy that moved in patterns no physics textbook had ever described. While the aliens above them had spent thousands of years perfecting faster-than-light travel and energy weapons, humanity had stumbled onto something completely different. It started by accident. 5 years ago, a team studying earthquake patterns had noticed something strange in the deepest ocean trenches. Reality itself seemed thinner there, like a piece of cloth stretched too tight. When they investigated further, they found places where the normal rules of physics simply stopped working. Dr. Maria Santos, the team's youngest scientist, called up another display. The dimensional barrier is definitely weakening, she said. Whatever that thing is on the other side, it's responding to our tests. Sarah nodded. The thing Maria mentioned was something they had discovered 6 months ago. When they pushed hard enough against the barriers between dimensions, something pushed back. Not something hostile, but something that felt curious, almost playful. What does the AI say? Sarah asked. Their artificial intelligence was humanity's most advanced computer, built using processing methods that combined human intuition with machine calculation. It had been studying the dimensional data for months. Arya, report status, Sarah said to the air. A calm female voice filled the room. Dr. Chen, I have completed analysis of today's tests. The barriers between our dimension and the adjacent reality layers are now thin enough for physical transit. I calculate a 92% chance of successful phase transition. Dr. Park looked nervous. Phase transition of what exactly? A small probe initially, Arya replied. The energy requirements for larger objects increase exponentially, but the mathematics suggest it is possible. Sarah felt her heart racing. Phase transition meant moving something completely out of their reality and into the space between dimensions. If it worked, that object would become invisible to every form of detection the aliens used. It would exist everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "Bring up Project Lazarus," Sarah ordered. The screens changed to show technical drawings of something that looked like a cross between a spaceship and a work of art. Its hull curved in ways that seemed to flow like water, and its interior was designed around technologies that humanity had only theorized about until now. "The prototype ship is 60% complete," reported Dr. Santos. "The hull construction is finished, and we've installed the first-generation phase drives. But Sarah, we still don't know if a human crew can survive the transition." "That's what the tests are for," Sarah said. The team had been working in complete secrecy for 5 years. Every major government on Earth contributed resources, but only a handful of people knew the true scope of the project. While the world above worried about normal problems like politics and climate change, teams of scientists and engineers worked around the clock in hidden facilities across the globe. They called it Project Lazarus because it would bring humanity back from the dead. The aliens had written them off as a primitive species doomed to destroy itself. Let them think that. While they ignored Earth, humanity would become something the galaxy had never seen before. "Arya, show me the weapons systems," Sarah said. "Dr. Chen, I must remind you that these are theoretical designs only. We have no way to test reality distortion weapons without alerting every monitoring station in the solar system." "I understand. Show me anyway." The display changed to show weapon designs that made nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. Instead of destroying matter, these weapons would edit reality itself. A target wouldn't just be destroyed. It would be removed from existence so completely that the universe would adjust as if it had never been there in the first place. Dr. Park studied the designs with a worried expression. "Sarah, are we sure about this? These weapons, they're beyond anything humanity has ever created. If we make a mistake—" "James, look at these readings," Sarah interrupted, pointing to another screen. "These are the alien monitoring stations, watching our solar system. They think we're primitive because we use chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They have no idea that we're developing along a completely different path." The monitoring stations had been watching Earth for 50 years, but they only looked for the kinds of technology they understood. They watched for fusion power signatures, antimatter reactions, and gravitational distortions. They never looked for dimensional manipulation because they had never discovered it themselves. "The beauty of our approach," continued Sarah, "is that it's invisible to them. Their sensors can't detect dimensional technology because they don't know it exists. While they've been perfecting control over normal space and time, we've been learning to step outside of space and time entirely." Dr. Santos pulled up a new file. "Sarah, the latest intelligence reports are in. The aliens are planning something. Our deep space monitors detected increased activity in several nearby systems, large fleets moving toward this region." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. But Arya estimates 6 months at most before they reach the outer edge of our solar system. Then we accelerate the timeline," Sarah decided. "Arya, what would happen if we attempted full phase transition with the prototype today?" "Dr. Chen, the risks are significant. We have not completed safety protocols for human crew members. The phase field could cause molecular dissolution, temporal displacement, or consciousness fragmentation." "But it's possible?" "Yes, I calculate a 74% chance of successful transition and return." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what Sarah was thinking. They could continue testing for months, making sure everything was perfect and safe. Or they could take a massive risk and discover if their theories actually worked. "Dr. Chen," said Dr. Park quietly, "if you're thinking of volunteering for the first test—" "I am," Sarah said. "This project was my idea. If it fails, I should be the one to pay the price." "And if it succeeds?" Sarah looked at the technical drawings of their impossible ship, then at the alien monitoring stations that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant. "If it succeeds," she said, "then everything changes. The aliens think they know what humanity is capable of. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and watched the star maps update on the main display. 12 massive ships moved through space in perfect formation, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. The fleet was so large that smaller civilizations often surrendered just from seeing it on their long-range scanners. Today's mission was routine, almost boring. They were heading to collect resources from a backwater system that had been marked for extraction 6 months ago. The system contained useful metals, a decent energy source, and a small primitive world that would need to be cleared. Navigation. Report, the Admiral commanded. Sir, we are approaching the edge of the Sol system, replied Lieutenant Vexhan. All ships maintaining formation. Estimated time to optimal position, 4 hours. Admiral Kethvar nodded. The Sol system. He barely remembered discussing it at the council meeting. Something about primitive creatures called humans who still used chemical rockets. The thought made him smile. In a few days, this system would be transformed into a resource extraction zone, and those primitive beings would be relocated to a more suitable world where they could live out their simple lives. What do our sensors show? He asked. Standard readings, sir, reported the sensor officer. One small orbital station around the third planet. Basic radio communications. Primitive satellites. No military presence detected. No defensive systems of any kind. Perfect. The Admiral hated it when primitive species tried to fight back. It was wasteful and pointless, but some of them were too stupid to understand how outmatched they were. These humans seemed smarter than most. Communications officer, prepare the standard annexation message, the Admiral ordered. We'll broadcast it when we reach extraction position. Yes, sir. Should I include relocation options? Admiral Kethvar thought about it. The humans seemed harmless enough, and they might actually be useful as a labor force once they were properly trained. Yes, include the standard offer. If they surrender peacefully, they can be relocated to Colony World 247. It has a similar atmosphere and gravity. The bridge crew worked efficiently around him. Most of them had done this type of operation dozens of times. It was simple work. Arrive, announce the annexation, begin resource extraction, deal with any primitive life forms as needed. The whole process usually took less than a week. Sir, we're receiving a data packet from the monitoring station, reported the communications officer. Put it on screen. The display showed a detailed report about human development over the past 50 years. Pictures of their cities, their primitive transportation, their basic weapons. The Admiral skipped through most of it until he reached the threat assessment. Threat level, minimal, he read aloud. Recommended force. Single corvette would be sufficient for complete system control. The Admiral laughed. And we brought 12 dreadnoughts. This will definitely be the easiest assignment of the year. His second in command, Captain Zorthel, stepped up beside him. Sir, should we reduce our fleet size? It seems like massive overkill for such a primitive species. No, said the Admiral. The fleet needs the exercise, and it sends a good message to other systems in this region. Besides, the extraction equipment needs heavy ships to transport it. The hours passed quickly. The Admiral reviewed the extraction plans while his crew prepared the equipment. They would start by draining useful materials from the outer planets, then move inward to the more valuable resources. The asteroid belt contained enough metals to supply 3 standard mining operations. Admiral, we have reached optimal position, announced the navigation officer. The Admiral looked at the tactical display. His 12 ships hung in space at the edge of the solar system like sleeping giants. Each dreadnought was 3 miles long and carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Their energy shields could absorb anything a primitive civilization might throw at them. Begin deployment of extraction equipment, he ordered. Massive machines began emerging from the cargo holds of the fleet, stellar collectors that could drain energy directly from a star. Planetary mining platforms that could strip a world down to its core. Gravity manipulators that could move entire moons. Extraction equipment deployed and operational, sir, reported the engineering officer. We can begin full resource extraction in 6 hours. Excellent. Communications, broadcast the annexation message to the third planet. The communications officer pressed several buttons on his control panel. Broadcasting on all human frequencies, sir. Admiral Kethvar straightened his uniform and faced the communication pickup. He had given this speech so many times he could recite it in his sleep. Primitive inhabitants of Sol 3, he began in the standard Imperial tone. Your system has been claimed by the Galactic Hegemony for resource extraction and stellar engineering. This is not negotiable. You will surrender all claims to this system immediately. He paused, then continued in a slightly warmer tone. However, your species shows potential for useful labor applications. If you surrender peacefully and without resistance, you will be transported to Colony World 247, where you can continue your development under proper supervision. You have 12 hours to respond. The message was transmitted toward the small, blue planet. The Admiral didn't expect a reply. Most primitive species were too shocked to respond at all. Sir, said the sensor officer, I'm reading some unusual energy patterns from the inner system. What kind of patterns? Unknown, sir. The computer can't classify them. They appear to be coming from somewhere near the third planet, but the readings don't match any known technology. Admiral Kethvar frowned. Are you sure the sensors are working correctly? Yes, sir. I've run full diagnostics twice. The readings are accurate, but they don't make sense. Show me. The main display changed to show the inner solar system. Earth appeared as a small blue dot, with its tiny moon beside it. But there were strange energy readings scattered throughout the area, like ripples in space itself. Computer, analyze unknown energy signatures, the Admiral commanded. Analysis complete, replied the ship's AI. Energy patterns do not match any known technology in Imperial databases. Patterns suggest possible dimensional distortions, but no known species has developed dimensional manipulation technology. Dimensional distortions? Captain Zorthal looked worried. Sir, maybe we should call for backup. From a species that still uses chemical rockets? The Admiral laughed. I think our sensors are malfunctioning. Run a full system diagnostic. Diagnostic complete. All systems functioning normally. The Admiral stared at the display. The energy patterns were definitely there, and they were definitely strange. But they were coming from a planet whose inhabitants thought nuclear weapons were advanced technology. Probably some kind of natural phenomenon, he decided. These primitive systems often have unusual stellar conditions. Continue with the extraction schedule. Yes, sir. But as the Admiral gave his orders, the strange energy readings were growing stronger, and deep beneath Earth's oceans, Dr. Sarah Chen was looking at displays that showed exactly where the alien fleet was positioned. Aria, she said quietly. How long until our ship is ready for phase transition? 17 minutes, Dr. Chen. Sarah looked at her team. They were all volunteers who knew they might not survive the next hour, but they also knew that if they did nothing, humanity would be enslaved or destroyed. Then we better hurry, she said. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do. High above, Admiral Kethvar continued his routine operations, completely unaware that everything he thought he knew about primitive species was about to change forever. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped into the pilot seat of humanity's first interdimensional ship and felt the strange metal respond to her touch. The control surfaces were made from crystallized dark matter, a substance that existed halfway between dimensions. When she placed her hands on them, she could feel the space between realities calling to her. All systems ready for phase transition, announced Aria through the ship's communication system. Dr. Chen, your vital signs are elevated. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Sarah looked through the transparent aluminum viewports at her team far below. Dr. Park gave her a thumbs up. Dr. Santos waved. They all knew this might be the last time they saw each other. I'm ready, Aria. Begin phase sequence. The ship began to hum with an energy that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Reality around the vessel started to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Through her instruments, Sarah could see the alien fleet hanging in space at the edge of the solar system, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Phase generators at 20% power, area reported. Dimensional barriers are responding, 30%, 40%. Sarah felt a strange sensation as if she was becoming lighter and heavier at the same time. The walls of the ship seemed to become transparent, then solid again, then transparent. She could see through them into a space that wasn't quite space, filled with colors that didn't have names. 60%. Dimensional transition beginning. Dr. Chen, you are now existing in multiple realities simultaneously. The feeling was impossible to describe. Sarah could see the ocean around her, but she could also see the stars above and the alien ships, and something else that might have been the inside of her own thoughts. She was still in her pilot seat, but she was also everywhere in the universe, at once. 80%. Phase transition nearly complete. All ship systems functioning normally within dimensional field. How do I look to outside observers? Sarah asked. To normal sensors, you no longer exist. The ship has been removed from conventional reality. However, you can observe and interact with normal space as desired. Sarah smiled. After 15 years of theoretical work, it was actually happening. She was piloting a ship that existed between dimensions, invisible to every form of detection the aliens possessed. Arya, set course for the alien fleet. Let's go introduce ourselves. The ship moved, through space, but not in the way normal vessels traveled. Instead of crossing the distance between Earth and the alien fleet, Sarah simply decided she wanted to be near them, and the ship was there. The journey took no time at all because time only existed in regular reality. Through her instruments, Sarah could see the 12 massive alien dreadnoughts clearly now. Each ship was enormous, bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. But they all had one weakness the aliens didn't even know existed. They were locked into normal reality. Arya, can you show me the inside of their flagship? Certainly. Dimensional viewing active. Sarah's main screen lit up with an image of the alien bridge. She could see Admiral Kethavar standing confidently in front of his tactical displays, completely unaware that a human was watching him from a dimension he didn't know existed. His crew worked efficiently around him, preparing their extraction equipment. They really have no idea we're here, Sarah murmured. Correct. Their sensors show normal space only. To them, this area of space is empty except for their own ships. Sarah watched the aliens for several minutes, studying their movements and their technology. Everything they did was based on normal physics. Fast ships, powerful energy weapons, strong shields. All of it completely useless against something that wasn't technically there. Arya, I want to test our weapon systems. Target the smallest ship in their formation. Dr. Chen, are you certain? Once we fire, there will be no hiding our capabilities. That's the point. It's time to announce that humanity is no longer accepting applications for conquest. Sarah studied the weapon controls. Unlike normal weapons that fired energy or projectiles, these weapons fired concentrated reality distortion. They didn't destroy targets so much as edit them out of existence entirely. Target locked, reported Arya. Reality distortion cannon charged and ready. Fire. The weapon fired, but there was no flash of light or explosion. Instead, space itself seemed to twist around the target ship. For a moment, Sarah could see the alien vessel becoming transparent, then fading, then simply not being there anymore. The effect was instant and complete. The ship didn't blow up or break apart. It just stopped existing. The universe quietly rearranged itself so that it had never been there in the first place. On the alien flagship, chaos erupted immediately. "Admiral," shouted the sensor officer, "Ship 7 has disappeared." "What do you mean, disappeared?" Admiral Kethavar demanded. "Sir, it's not there anymore. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. It's just gone. That's impossible. Ships don't just disappear. Check the sensor logs." The sensor officer worked frantically at his controls, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, according to our logs, we only ever had 11 ships in this formation. There's no record of a Ship 7. Admiral Kethavar felt ice forming in his stomach. "Check the crew manifest. How many ships did we leave port with?" 11, sir. We've always had 11 ships." But the Admiral remembered 12 ships. He clearly remembered 12 massive dreadnoughts leaving the hegemony base. He remembered giving orders to 12 captains, but now everyone else seemed to think there had only ever been 11. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from an unknown source. Put it through." Sarah's voice filled the alien bridge, calm and professional and absolutely terrifying in its implications. "Admiral Kethvar, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You are currently in violation of human space. You have exactly 1 standard hour to retreat beyond the Kuiper Belt and transmit a message to your Galactic Council." Admiral stared at his displays, trying to locate the source of the transmission. His sensors showed nothing but empty space. "The message is simple," Sarah continued. "Earth is no longer accepting applications for conquest. We have been watching your Galactic Council for quite some time now, studying your technologies, your cultures, your weaknesses. We have decided that galactic civilization requires adjustment." "This is impossible," the Admiral whispered. "Show yourself. Where are you hiding?" Sarah's ship phased back into normal reality directly in front of the alien flagship. It appeared, suddenly, as if it had always been there but somehow invisible until that moment. The vessel was smaller than the alien dreadnoughts, but it radiated a wrongness that made veteran space warriors feel primitive fear. The ship's hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its design was sleek and predatory, like something that had been built to hunt things much larger than itself. Worst of all, it flickered in and out of normal vision, as if it existed partially in their dimension and partially somewhere else. "Admiral," Sarah's voice came again, "your weapons are useless against us. Your shields cannot stop what we can do to you. Your speed means nothing to beings who can step outside of time itself. You have 1 hour to comply with our demands." "Admiral," Kethvar looked at his tactical officer, "can we target that ship?" "Sir, our targeting systems can't lock onto it. The ship appears to be phasing in and out of our reality. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not." "Fire anyway." The alien flagship unleashed a barrage of energy weapons that could have melted a moon. Planet-killing beams of concentrated plasma streaked toward the human ship. Every shot passed harmlessly through the vessel as it phased between dimensions. The weapons had no effect at all. Then humanity fired back. Sarah triggered her reality distortion cannon again, but this time she aimed it at empty space near the alien fleet. A section of space simply ceased to exist, creating a hole in reality itself. Through the hole, the aliens could see into other dimensions, other realities, other possibilities. "That was a warning shot," Sarah announced. "The next one won't be. You now have 59 minutes to leave our solar system." The alien bridge fell completely silent. Every warrior, every officer, every crew member stared at their displays in shock and growing terror. They had found something worse than a primitive species. They had found a primitive species that wasn't primitive at all. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began in chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the great chamber, but instead of their usual confident chatter, there was only frightened whispers and nervous glances. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy. The hegemony's 12th fleet had retreated from a primitive world. Admiral Kethvar stood in the center of the chamber, his blue skin now pale with humiliation. Around him, the same delegates who had laughed at humanity 6 months ago now stared at him with mixtures of disbelief and fear. "Explain yourself, Admiral," demanded Duchess Iriltha. Her swan-like neck was rigid with tension. "Your report claims that a single primitive vessel forced 12 dreadnoughts to retreat. This is impossible." "I know how it sounds," Admiral Kethvar replied, his voice hoarse. "But I've brought sensor recordings. Computer, display the engagement data." The hologram in the center of the chamber showed the human ship appearing from nowhere, phasing in and out of reality like a ghost. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as the recording showed their most powerful weapons passing harmlessly through the vessel. "The ship exists partially outside normal space," the Admiral continued. "Our sensors could barely detect it. Our weapons couldn't touch it. And when it fired back, the hologram showed empty space where one of the hegemony ships should have been. Then it showed the reality distortion weapon creating a hole in space itself. Coordinator Voss clicked his multiple legs nervously against his platform. This must be some kind of trick. Primitive species don't develop this level of technology. That's what we thought too, said Admiral Kethvar. We were wrong. Ambassador Cleith of the Nebular Collective swirled anxiously in his containment field. What did these humans want? What were their demands? Before the Admiral could answer, the air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. Reality twisted and folded in on itself, creating ripples that made several delegates back away in fear. Then a section of space simply opened like a door, and Dr. Sarah Chen stepped through. She was still wearing her pilot suit from the interdimensional ship. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had just rewritten the rules of galactic politics. She looked around the chamber with curious eyes as if she was visiting a museum. Greetings, she said in perfect galactic standard, though her accent was unlike anything they had ever heard. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, representing the species you know as humanity. I believe you've been discussing us. The chamber erupted in panic. Several representatives fled for the exits. Others activated personal shields or called for security. A few simply stared in shock at the impossible sight of a human standing in their most secure facility. How did you get in here? Demanded Admiral Kethvar. This station has the most advanced security in the galaxy. Sarah smiled politely. Your security is designed to stop ships and weapons that exist in normal space. We don't. She gestured casually, and another dimensional portal opened behind her, showing a view of Earth's blue oceans. We can go anywhere we want, whenever we want. Walls and shields mean nothing to us. Duchess Iriltha found her voice first. What do you want from us? Change, Sarah replied simply. Your current galactic civilization is based on a simple idea. Stronger species dominate weaker ones. You classify worlds as primitive or advanced based on whether they match your technological development. You take resources from species you consider beneath you. This stops now. Zexhari, the crystalline Vorthon representative, managed to speak despite her fear. You cannot simply appear and demand we change thousands of years of galactic law. Can't we? Sarah asked. As she spoke, the chamber's main display lit up with images from across the galaxy. They showed human ships appearing at every major hegemony base, every council world, every center of galactic power. These images are being broadcast live from 47 different star systems. My people are currently observing your military installations, your government centers, and your most secure facilities. The implications hit the delegates like a physical blow. If humans could appear anywhere without detection, then nowhere in the galaxy was safe from them. Ambassador Shentok of the biomechanical Nexari leaned forward, his mechanical parts whirring nervously. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah pulled a small device from her pocket and activated it. A holographic document appeared in the air above the chamber, written in dozens of galactic languages. The Universal Rights Charter, she announced. Every sentient species has the right to develop naturally without interference. No species may be classified as primitive or advanced based on technological development alone. Resource extraction from inhabited worlds is prohibited without consent from the native population. The use of force to impose political or economic systems on unwilling populations is banned. The chamber fell silent as the delegates read through the document. Everything Sarah was proposing would fundamentally change how galactic civilization worked. And if we refuse? Asked Admiral Kethvar quietly. Sarah's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Then we implement these changes ourselves. We have the technology to edit reality at will. We can make your weapons disappear. We can relocate your fleets to empty space. We can even make entire civilizations forget that conquest was ever an option. To demonstrate her point, Sarah gestured toward one of the wall displays. The screen showed a hegemony battleship, then showed it simply ceasing to exist. A moment later, it reappeared in a completely different star system. We relocated that ship and its crew to a peaceful system near the galactic rim, Sarah explained. They're unharmed, but they're also no longer a threat to anyone. We can do this to any military force in the galaxy. Coordinator Voss spoke up, his voice shaking. How do we know you won't use this power to dominate the galaxy yourselves? Because that's not who we are, Sarah replied. Humans have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We didn't develop this technology to conquer anyone. We developed it to defend ourselves. But we've learned that true defense sometimes means changing the conditions that create threats in the first place. She gestured to the charter again. This document doesn't give humanity any special rights or privileges. We're not asking to rule the galaxy. We're asking the galaxy to rule itself better. Duchess Iriltha was the first to speak. If we agree to these terms, what guarantee do we have that humanity will honor them? The same guarantee you give each other, Sarah said. Trust, verification, and the understanding that cooperation benefits everyone more than conflict. She paused, then added, the difference is that if anyone violates these principles, humanity has the power to enforce them. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some delegates argued that giving in to human demands would set a dangerous precedent. Others pointed out that they had no choice against an enemy that could edit reality itself. A few wise voices suggested that maybe, just maybe, the humans were offering something the galaxy actually needed. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Not because every delegate believed in the charter, but because they all understood what would happen if they refused. The session ended and delegates began filing out. Admiral Kethvar approached Sarah. I have to ask, he said. How long have you been watching us? Sarah smiled. Admiral, we've been monitoring galactic communications since we developed radio technology. We've been listening to your council meetings, your military briefings, your cultural exchanges. We learned your languages, studied your histories, and understood your civilizations long before you noticed we existed. The Admiral felt a chill. All this time you were learning about us while we ignored you. That's right. While you were dismissing us as primitive, we were becoming something you never expected. Something the galaxy has never seen before. Sarah opened another dimensional portal behind her. The age of conquest is over, Admiral. The age of cooperation begins now. She stepped through the portal and vanished, leaving behind a galaxy that would never be the same. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen returned to her laboratory and looked at her team with tired but satisfied eyes. Well? Asked Dr. Park. How did they take it? Better than expected, Sarah replied. I think they're finally beginning to understand that the universe is much larger and stranger than they thought. Dr. Santos laughed. They mocked Earth. Now they're taking orders from it. Not orders, Sarah corrected. Suggestions. Very strong suggestions backed by the power to rewrite reality itself. She looked up at the stars through the laboratory's transparent ceiling. Somewhere up there, the galaxy was learning to be better than it had been. And humanity, the species that had been written off as primitive and doomed, was quietly making sure it stayed that way. The age of human guardianship had begun.